Are you encouraged by these international solidarity protests, and do you think they help the U.S. cause, or do they distract from it?
Oh, I definitely think they help the U.S. cause because the world's eyes are on the United States, which indeed holds itself up as a beacon, as a democracy. And even though many of these countries have their own problems with policing and law enforcement and their relationships with communities of color, and so that's true too. It's been interesting that in any city around the country and the world, they all have a name to 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 yell out, say their name, and it's about more than George Floyd. It is about inequities, not just in policing, but in so many other areas, as we've seen with the COVID pandemic and the fact that Black and Brown communities are disproportionately affected.
Mary, are you surprised that these protests spread domestically the way they did, that the good and the bad, so quickly and broadly?
I am not, because I feel that there has been that frustration. Now, we saw that excruciating video with the white officer's knee on George Floyd's neck. But as people have been saying, it's metaphorically a knee on the neck of communities of color. And while it is great that there is this video that everyone can see, and it's horrible, I think Black Americans have been frustrated because they've been talking about this problem that has been there for generations. And it's almost as though people needed a visual proof to believe it. And also the image, let's face it, it is traumatic. It is Black death and Black pain. So you do have mixed feelings about that, but I am not surprised. I am a little heartened, I would say, that the demonstrations have been multiracial, multicultural. You see people of all ages, races, creeds out there. So they are relating to it in a way that perhaps past demonstrations they have not.
There's been a lot of anger pointed at U.S. President Donald Trump's critics, though, say that before him you had in the U.S. a Black president, a Black attorney general, and the system still wasn't reformed. What are your thoughts about that, and if indeed change can now happen?
Well, it's true that this is a long-standing problem, and it wasn't solved magically because there was an African-American president. In fact, some would say there was a backlash because of a Black president. But you did see the Obama administration and his attorneys general start to put in consent decrees with police departments that were problematic, and they were entering into them to have oversight and improvement. And when the Trump administration came in under its attorneys general, Jeff Sessions and then William Barr, they pretty much revoked these consent decrees. They also revoked, the Obama administration had held back on giving these local police departments military-grade surplus equipment. And now you see that the Trump administration had opened that up again. So that's why you see sometimes oversized response to peaceful protests, because people are coming in with tear gas and rubber bullets and riot shields that they're all covered up. And so it would seem that these were some problems. So perhaps you will see things happening to go back to take another look at these.
And Mary, finally, where does all of this go from here? Is there a list of demands or a gesture that would encourage the protesters to say, we've achieved what we wanted, it's time for this to end?
Well, I think it's more than a gesture. They're going to have to see really concrete policies, such as maybe lessening the strength of the police unions, which have so many things in place, protections that keep their records from being in the public, and they get qualified immunity, so they're not held to account, and even having databases so a police officer that has been problematic or involved in a situation can go to another police department. And you'll see, as President Obama in his speech said, vote for some of these local offices, local prosecutors who will hold them to account. So I think right now they just want to be heard, but just saying we're going to arrest these 4 officers in the case of George Floyd, it's not going to be enough. There's going to have to be systemic change, not just in law enforcement, but in areas of housing, education, health, and all of these other things. And it's been generations in the making, so it's going to take a while, but that's what happens when you ignore a problem. So all of these people all over the world are pretty much saying, listen to us, hear us, and get something done.